We're going to present you with an actual scenario taken from the site directors who kind of helped us out and told us what are some of the situations you've dealt with, and we've pulled together a scenario. It's going to be done a little bit like a dramatic reading, and then we want you to kind of de-escalate that situation. Tell us how that situation could have gone better. You're going to get a chance to fix what happened using some de-escalation strategies, and we're also going to spend a lot of time focusing on this issue of recovery. How do we create a situation where we've not only managed the conflict and stopped the crisis, but how do we also begin to restore these relationships so that youth development can continue? Because sometimes our conflicts get so out of control that the youth development thing just stops. And in worst case scenarios, young people leave the program. So we want to leave you all in a place where we're focused on restoration of relationships. First, let me set the scene. The Justice Corps has a GED or HSE class that begins at 9 o'clock. There's a young man named Paul. He's one of our protagonists. He's a participant in Justice Corps, and he comes into the program. He is late. It is 9:45, and I should let you know that this is a program that has a policy where you get like one late pass a month, okay? You get to call in and say, I'm gonna be late, and you get to come in and you get to still go to class. After that pass is expended, if you show up late, you're sent home. That is the policy. And so on this particular day, Paul comes in, he did not call, and Carol, who's the administrative assistant who sits at the front desk, it's kind of a foyer area, a little waiting area, some tables with magazines and so forth on it. She runs that area, and she's in charge of administering those late passes, and she lets him know that he's late, he's not going to be able to go to class, and that he needs to see his case manager, okay? So that is the scene. I should also let you know that Rashid is the case manager in this scenario. So there's Paul, Carol, and Rashid, and I want you to think about and listen for what happens with these three people, okay? So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I want you to envision this Justice Corps program, this front desk, and this young man, Paul, walking in 45 minutes late, and he begins to sign in. Carol says, Paul, you're late, and you've used your pass for the month. You'll have to speak to your case manager and go home for the day. Yo, don't stress me. The A train was mad late, some kind of incident. I couldn't call, and I don't feel like talking to nobody. I'm just signing in, and I'm going to class. As Paul turns to leave, Carol walks over and stops him by touching his arm and standing in front of him. She says, I'm sorry, Paul, you need to talk to Rashid. You can't go to class today. She signals to Rashid, who has just returned from the bathroom. Paul is becoming agitated and tells Carol, yo, don't touch me. I'm already tight. I can still make most of class. You're making me late by standing in my way. Move. Rashid moves in between Carol and Paul and says, Paul, calm down. You know the rules. You know that you don't have a pass, and you know that I can't let you go to class. Let's go talk about this. Paul is very agitated now. Yo, why do you all make such a big effing deal out of everything? The train was late. I've been on the train for 2 hours, son. Call MTA. This wasn't my fault. I can't call from a tunnel, can I? As Paul gets louder, 2 more case managers come and stand behind Rashid. Rashid says, I think you need to go cool off, Paul. Take a walk around the block and come back in 15 minutes. Why y'all rolling up on me? How you gonna tell me to go cool off when all I'm trying to do is get to class? And I'm coming back in 15 minutes for what? For you to tell me that you're taking money out of my pocket for something that wasn't my fault? F that. I don't wanna hear nothing about losing money, because I'm here. You feel me? I'm here. Rashid repeats, you need to go cool off. Paul turns to go, cursing under his breath. As he is leaving, he passes Carol and says, yo, why you had to put me on blast? I'm gonna lose money because of you. Carol responds, you're not losing money because of me. You're losing money because of you. You brought this on yourself. Paul stops in his tracks. He turns angrily to Carol. Oh, so that's how you roll? Fine. All I'm saying is if I lose money, you're losing money. If I come out my pocket, you coming out your pocket. You feel me? He crosses the foyer and turns over the resource table, throwing it to the ground. He tears up the bulletin board and starts to destroy the reception area, shouting, "If I lose, y'all lose." All right, I want you to keep your eyes closed for a moment and pay attention to what you're thinking and feeling right now. All right, open your eyes. Open your eyes. So let's make sure we got this right. Tell me what you heard happening. What happened? Just give me a timeline. What happened?
Okay, Paul was late. The administrator, Carol, said he can't go to class. The speaking case manager, Paul comes from the bathroom and stands between them and says, "You should go cool off." He's upset. He doesn't want to cool off. Then two other case managers stand behind the case manager, Rashid.
Rashid.
No, Rashid. And he feels, then he says, "Oh, you're ganging up on me." And then the Rashid continues to say to Paul, "Go cool off." And then he says to the administrative assistant, "Why you rat me out?" And she said, "It's your fault, not my fault." And then he says, "If I lose money, then you lose the money." And then now he got turned up, as they say.
Got turned up.
He turned on the table and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
All righty. So what do you think? What are you thinking and feeling as you were listening to this? What were you thinking and feeling? All three people had a part in it, okay? We're going to break that down in a minute because you're going to tell me what they should have done differently. Tanaja?
Before we even get into some of the young person's behavior, I just don't like this rule. I don't think it's realistic. You only get one 15-minute late pass in the whole month. That's asking for a conflict. in my opinion.
Hold on to that thought. What were you thinking and feeling as you heard and listened to this? Yes, in the back.
I was thinking that it sounded really familiar to me.
I was going to say, is this like an anomaly? Well,
I was thinking that during all of this, they were talking about the situation too much. They kept the trigger was the kid didn't want to be docked pay. He wanted to go to class, and they kept talking about rules.
Okay.
You know you messed up. You know this and that. You know the rules. It's your fault. I think that's the trigger, and they kept bringing it up over and over. It should be taken out of it.
all right. So let's do this. Since you guys are like, let me just fix this, because they got this all wrong. They got it twisted. Turn to your neighbors and fix this. Tell me what Carol could have done differently. What could Rashid have done differently? And what other elements in this situation could be changed to prevent this conflict or to recover from it? Okay? Everybody clear? What did Carol do that she should have done differently? What did Rashid do? What are your top recommendations to this scenario to fix it? Everybody clear?
Single day. Unless you call and say that you're running late and you have an excuse, if you're 15 minutes late, you go home. So from the beginning, they know that that's the rule, but they tend to forget, and then there's instances where they can't call. And I feel like in this situation, there was no understanding that he's in the train. You know, if you're in the train for 2 hours, obviously you can't call.
Right.
And to me, like, she didn't try to hear him out. It was just like, this is the rule, this is the rule, this is
But can I say something? He to go speak to his case manager. So
No, I'm talking about the case manager was not trying to talk to them.
But you see, aside from this, right, like when the cops pull you over, because Kate and I got pulled over the other day from running red light, okay, they're not concerned with the why.
But we are not by
But it's what I'm saying, the real world, though.
I know.
Isn't it supposed to be like the real world?
Teaching them, yeah. They don't know.
We have to
If you
give them
never
the
came in
skills.
late, if you never had a job, how you know to come in on time?
We're the people
You
that
gotta
are
go.
teachers.
You can't. It gotta be baby steps. Some of them gotta be. Yes, they gotta be baby steps.
In the context of this, though, I'm assuming that
And then,
this guy. I'm sorry.
and then I look at it like, I mean, with Paul, he walked in late, you know what I mean? But he could have pulled, when Carol went to say something, he could have pulled Carol to the side and like, yo, I know understand I'm late, yo, but because I done did that before to my supervisor. pull them to the side, yo, boy, you know I'm late, right? You know, and usually it works out. I'm not saying all the time, but you know, and then your business won't be out there, won't be in front of the class, a broad place. You know what I mean? Like, I think Carol, she shouldn't have like broadened it out. You know what I mean? Everybody there getting paid, and now he feel like he ain't getting paid. It's gonna be some conflict.
But then you know what that says to the other students? Oh, Paul was late, then I could be late.
But everybody's at a different stage, and I mean, like, you can't treat Paul like everybody else because everybody at a different stage.
In the context
Paul
of
may be
this, though?
one of the guys that need more help than this guy. This guy, man, got it. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like,
In the context of this, though,
I
what you
feel
were
that
saying?
definitely the case manager should have isolated the situation. She should not have addressed him in front of Carol. You know, if it's between the case manager and him and they need to negotiate something, then she should have brought him into her office and at least say, you know, try to talk it out with him alone without, you know, a gang of case managers there to make him feel intimidated.
I've come across that scenario a few times, and I just have them. They'll tell you. I'll have them sit with me, even though they can't go into class. I'll have them come and sit down with me, and I use it as advisement for the day. Therefore, nothing, the triggers, everything. He's calm, he's easy, and everybody can have a nice, smooth day. You know, that's what I do.
So it says to me that he's late all the time, and he specifically avoided letting the contact person know in the front why he was late. He wouldn't have said why he was late if she didn't address him. So that goes to show that that's a behavior issue that he has from the jump, coming in and that's just looking at it. I think where it went wrong was when the administrative assistant said that you have to go for the day and didn't leave that up to the case manager, where it should have just been like you should have went to the relationship. Because now you're coming at me. That's like a threat. When you're like, oh, I gotta go. Like, cause when it comes to this or else, it's always the or else. What's the or else? I'm ready to turn up. That type of thing. So I think that's like, when I was listening to it, I was like, as soon as she said that, oh, you can go home. I was like, that's it right there. Like that's where the point where it just flipped into that. Oh, well, what y'all gonna do? I'm gonna turn it up. And I agree. I think that as soon as the case manager came, it should have automatically been, let's get outside of all of this stuff. The woman that you just talked to. Let's get away from the classroom, so you're not thinking about the classroom, and let's focus on the issue. And that's kind of like where I would have started.
I don't think one thing applies to everybody.
That's what it is.
Like, you know, you can't fit one format into every. The kids, they come from all different walks of life. They got all different problems. Some got family problems. Some got work. It's no right way for every kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta, you know what I mean, break it apart for each individual.
I definitely agree. I think consistency is very important. So how we know about lateness, we do need to apply it uniformly. However, it's in the delivery of how we tell the young person the consequences. And so we all know that when confrontation only builds resistance. So you have to be loving and caring when you deliver these messages that are hard to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with that. And in what you were saying, a rule is a rule for a reason. And if you constantly break it, then no one is going to follow that rule. So it is important to enforce these rules, especially when you're trying to put them out in a world where they might have a supervisor that doesn't understand the situation.
And isn't going to sit down with them.
And isn't going to sit down and discuss their problems and tell them that they can stay and work half a day for the same pay. So it is important that we enforce these rules, but at the same time, you're right, we do need to be sensitive to their situation and know how to negotiate within that.
So there's 2 sessions. So if you come after 10:30, you already know that you can't get into a class. We don't send them home, they sign in, but then they're late. And then they have to have a reason for why they're late. If it was MTA or whatever situation, we're very, we understand when it comes to that, but then they are allowed to go to the second class.
To a degree, because what happens is because I was gonna say because like we do it as per like as per case, like the person comes, because you can tell like you'll get those people that if she got in yesterday with that 15-minute excuse, everybody's gonna use that, and meaning that because I have that relation, I have the relationship with the client, they'll tell me, Wes, all we have to do is say so and so and so because they can play off that with their staff. So it's a tactic. So in hearing this, when he's like, the way he says it, some kind of a man late to train, some kind of incident. It's not direct.
Okay.
So to me, that says that he's just using that as an excuse to get you off my back, when literally
So I
it's his
heard,
responsibility to get to where
as
he's
we
at.
walked around, I heard a lot of people going, the first problem was this, and the second problem was this, and she had no business, and he had no business. So I'm excited about hearing how you think that things could have been done differently. So let's just start out. I may not go table by table for each one, but if you feel strongly about this, then please speak up. So let's talk about what could Carol have done differently? What could Carol have done differently? I saw your hand first. One per table. I'm sorry. I thought that said table 2 over there. Table 3. So one table per response. Go ahead.
Okay, the thing that Carol shouldn't have did was touched him.
Mm-hmm.
And then she should not have gotten in his face.
Mm-hmm.
She should have just moved aside and have him to wait until Rashid showed up.
Okay.
And let Rashid handle it.
All right, which goes back to what we said before about respecting space and face, and trying not to get in people's faces at all whenever possible. What else could Carol have done? Let's go right here. And then I'm going to see you. I got you right here. Yes. Carol should not have been in charge of delivering the consequence. Carol should not have been in charge of delivering the consequence. That was, tell me why you think. I know why I think, but why do you think so? There you go. So the consequence should be delivered by a person who has a relationship or the person who is affected by the consequence, and she had neither, and so therefore didn't really have the leverage that she needed to be able to do this. Thank you. From this table to the right, no, table 2, and then I've got you.
Carol should have first asked him why he was late and maybe empathize with him first, and then say, okay, well, let's speak with your case manager, as she did, but she shouldn't have, again, delivered the consequence.
Okay, so some sense that he was heard and that she recognized his frustration because he walked in agitated. Okay.
Oh, no, I was going to say the same thing. She could have validated his frustration and said, I get frustrated when I'm late too. Just have a seat. We talked about that.
So some degree of empathy, some degree of relating to the young person, okay, and not necessarily focusing on policy first. Janine?
Just one other thing was that, I don't like that.
Okay, she said, I don't like you. Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, but when a young person is taking your suggestion on how to de-escalate them, not to stop them, because that all could have just went down, and he was taking their advice to go de-escalate. Okay. That last little thing right there, that's what stopped it. That's what made it go into crisis mode. And if they're taking your advice, allow them that opportunity.
Okay, so pay attention. Young people will often give you cues of how to de-escalate. He was walking away from it, and instead of just kind of letting him go, Carol got in that last little. And sometimes, there's this phrase, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? In this instance, she wanted to be right. No, this isn't, you're probably right. You didn't instigate this, but you're sharing that with him, now just escalated it even further. Back table. And I forgot you, Jonathan. You forgive me?
While we're coming down on Carol here, I would like to clarify, according to this scenario, there was not the option of having him sit down. He was going straight to the classroom to disrupt, 20 other people?
Good point.
And I think there's probably something in here about avoidance not being a good thing. But, I'll let him go in and disrupt that class. Fine. And I'll go back to work. But I think someone's going to come talk to me and say, why didn't you
stop him?
Exactly.
Absolutely. So that there has to be some plan in place. So what were Carol's alternatives? Because I think you have a good point. He was going to the classroom, and she was like, oh, I don't want that to happen. What else could Carol have done? Yes, right behind you.
Carol could have asked Paul to just give her a few minutes to get till Rashid comes out the bathroom, and being that Rashid did work with him as his case manager, to let Rashid know that he was late and the reason why. That would have bought him time, would have bought her time to get to Rashid to deal with the situation, instead of him going to disrupt the class or, leave the person
Right.
that should have dealt with it would have been able to.
So buy yourself some time. All righty. Jonathan, last comment, and then we'll move on to Rashid.
Great comments, everybody.
Mhm.
But no one said she should have welcomed him into the program. He was agitated before he got there. She should have, when he was walking in, she knew he was late. She knew the rules. Carol should have still said, "Good morning, Paul." That would at least calm him down just a bit. I think he walked in wanting a fight, wanting to be mad and just have somebody to go off on because he can't go off on MTA.
Okay.
That was an uncontrollable situation. And I think just welcoming him into the program would have been a whole lot better. That would have been
Excellent.
the
It's a
best
simple de-escalation technique. It's a simple one. Rashid, quick and dirty. What else could Rashid have done differently? Tanaja.
Rashid did not connect with the young person's feelings. Rashid pretty much picked up where Carol left off with the consequence and you were late, so you can't come in there. And then like the extra bodies came. Like all of a sudden 2 case managers were behind this guy. And so it was sort of like, all right, like again, validate the feelings. Listen, I can see you're frustrated. I'd be mad too if I had to wait a long time for, whatever. And then just, that's the biggest thing. Validate the feelings first.
Validate the feelings first. Yes. I see you.
Rashid definitely did not isolate the situation. Having a whole bodyguard, posse, you're reinforcing that parole and correction officer and idea that we are enforcement.
Right.
And that's something that you want to move away from if you're going to connect.
Okay. Absolutely. One more. See, Jessica, I see your hand up.
Build on that. I mean, that bodyguard type thing, that's a fear response too. And like when you're sort of broadcasting this fear response to a person who gets way too much of that in the first place, I mean, of course it's going to escalate the situation.
Absolutely. Yes, because I told you I would get you.
Rashid could have just, we've all been in a situation with the MTA, he could have acknowledged the effort that Paul made to get to the class, because
absolutely
we haven't verified if the train was late. So assuming that it was, Rashid is still saying, he's trying to get there. Could you get out the way? I can still get most of the class. So nobody acknowledged that he never turned around and went home. He still persevered and made it to the
Absolutely.
building. So I think that would have.
And he said that. He was telling them everything he wanted them to acknowledge, right? Yo, I've been on the train for 2 hours, son. Somebody just, that's a clue. Say, man, thanks for trying to get here. Wow. So absolutely. So they gave us clues. Are there other elements outside of Carol and Rashid that you think would have made a difference? I know, Tanaja, you felt very strongly about one of them.
The rule just did not make sense. It's a 30-day, let's assume that there are 25 school days in the month, and then like you only are going to give someone who already struggles and who has not really been successful in another school setting, a regular school setting, only one time to be late. I don't think it's realistic, because you're going to set somebody else up, because the next time they're late, it's going to, they're already going to be agitated. So sort of to like flex a little bit, you know what I mean? Give them, we have 20 excused hours.
Okay.
We don't tell them they have 20, but allow people to work with, give some more flexibility than this just one lateness.
So let me pose this, because we know that this is one of the target work readiness skills for Justice Corps, that you've got to be on time. So what's the alternative? What's an alternative policy? Options, tell me.
Well, if you come in late, so you have to do something else. You're not going to lose the day. You got that person.
Okay.
He's going to lose money. He's going to lose money. and he's acknowledged that he did come in. He was present that day.
So alternatives, acknowledging that he's there, give him something else to do, but not to have him lose the whole day. An alternative.
To pick up on his alternatives, the issue is getting them out. The issue is getting them into class. The issue is that they want to go into class and they want to continue to learn. Go ahead and set it, and we all know that tardiness is an issue. So have an alternative work assignment so they're not losing that productivity in academics.
Okay. An alternative work assignment. One here, and then one from this table. And then we'll take a break.
What I would do is a situation like that, as a case manager, I would have that participant come and sit with me and use that as a advisement. And maybe he can go into the second class.
Okay.
But during advisement, I would let him know that it's a possibility he won't be paid for the day, but you know, I think it's possible for him to just go in there and, you know, focus on working on his GED that's coming up, or and that's how I de-escalate anything from happening. Therefore, myself and staff can have a great day.
Absolutely, and that's some of the behavior support techniques that are listed in your book about redirecting and finding alternatives for people to do things. I'm gonna I'm gonna let you go. Be the last one.
I don't think we want to separate the young people from exactly the things that they need, which is why we're there. So I think we can do something like dock pay or have some kind of consequence, but allow them into the program, but with a very set consequence.
Okay, thank you. So make it a teachable moment on how to deal with this in the workplace, and if this really happened, what you might do. And also maybe taking a look at time management, because we all know that even adults will say, it took 2 hours, but we also know that you left your house 40 minutes late anyway. So the fact that the train was late just compounded it. So thank you for coming up with those strategies. Just a thing to keep in mind that the person who trained me in conflict management told me is that it's important in these situations to regard yourself more as a thermostat than a thermometer. And to the extent that, what does a thermometer do? What does a thermometer do? It just reflects the temperature that's there. So if it's already hot, it's just going to show you that it's hot, and it's going to stay hot. But a thermostat regulates the temperature, and so that's really our job and our role. And that's not anyone's position. That's not the administrator's job. That's not Carol's job. That's not Rashid's job. As youth workers, our job is always to be thermostats.